All right. So again, to everybody here, thank you so much for attending. Just get a sense of who we've got here. Looks like we're starting to fill up, which is fantastic. So got today, choose a topic for this webinar for creating or choosing awesome video topics. If you've been following anything that I've been doing in the last few months, you'll know I'm doing quite a bit on video. And so this is a portion of a course that I'm going to be doing. It's actually starting next week with the STC, and I'll get back to that later. That's not what this is about, but I want to talk about why choosing the right topic quickly drives that creation process. And I'm going to apologize in advance for using I'm not going to be reading my slides, but I will be following the topics and letting my PowerPoint slide deck kind of lead my conversation. Mainly because I got in this morning at about 1:45. I landed in San Diego from a trip to New Orleans, and you'll see that ties in a little bit later. The video that we're going to use as an example today is something I shot. You'll see from the timestamp at about 3:41 this morning. So, forgive me for any verbal gaffes or technology problems that we have here. So, we've got a few ways that you can all interact with me. And we could do that we're going to have a couple of polls. We're going to start off by giving you a couple of polls here so you can kind of give me a sense of who you are and how you got here. And then also we've got the questions panel. Now, I was mentioning to Howard earlier that the questions panel is great, and I definitely will go through all of that for the really important meaty things that you guys want to know. But if you want to get me a message quickly, the two things to do would be to use the chat window and then also to raise your hand, because I kind of get a better heads up visual on that through this GoToWebinar interface. So go ahead and do that stuff if you need to. And with that, we will go ahead and get started. So if we come over here and talk about this awesome video topics, the thing that I've found when I've started to work with my clients and when I'm working with my own content is that I need to decide where to start. Everybody's looking for that place where to start, and that's probably why you got here today. And that is probably the most paralyzing thing about creating video is, how am I going to do this? Where are the assets going to be? How am I going to record this? It's going to be this, this total sense of overwhelm, and it's something that I've felt quite often too. So we're going to take a look at a client that I'm currently working with. We're going to talk about what their needs for documentation were. Right? And then talk about why we chose not to fully document using text and graphics, screenshots and things like that, and then the choices that we made. So once we do that, we're going to look at the physical process. We'll take a look at one of their docs, the decisions that we made, and the list of topics, and then we'll show you that video that is that's literally going to go to the client a little bit later next week. And let's see, I just got to make sure I look at my chat window and make sure that you guys are all good to go. So a couple of polls for you here. So this is just finding out, some of you probably got an email from me asking to attend the webinar. So you may have noticed that that's a little bit different format for me. I'm switching over to basically a CRM or a contact relation management system. And so you can look for a little bit more personalized contact from me. I'll be reaching out a little bit later next week to do that. And so, Kathy, you're saying you don't see the chat window. You should see the GoToMeeting. You may have your screen maximized. And so if you're not maximized, you should see a little orange arrow that is the GoToMeeting interface, and that should allow you to get to the chat. But you can always use that question pod since you got that. The chat is probably collapsed in that list of things that you've got in there. Okay, so a couple of polls for all of you, and we're going to go first. And I want to find out if you could tell me of these three choices. I should have had an other in there, but if you've got an other, if you could do the question or the chat there. Let me know if you found out through the STC newsletter broadcast, whether it was the email that I sent out from Matt Sullivan or the TechCom Tools newsletter, or whether you just found out about this socially and this is one of our first interactions. So I'd love to see that. Yeah, so Kathy, just go ahead and stick with that question pod. I'm not sure exactly why it isn't working for you there, but I appreciate you being here as well. Kathy's one of my clients for various video and other software tools there. Okay, so if you could, let's go ahead and, sorry, needed to hit the launch poll button there. So you should be able to uh, choose from one of those three choices. If you could do that for me real quick. We'll just give you about 5 seconds to do that. All right, cool. So we do have a couple of people who got to us through social channels and not through the newsletters. So that's real interesting to me. And so very, very grateful to have you guys here. If you didn't get the direct email contact, because that looks like probably about 80% we're getting it from the newsletters there. So let's see. We'll go ahead and close that poll. We'll just do this real quick. And so we'd like to know why you all are here. Are you looking to create footage? Are you looking to create video with camera and camera footage, or are you looking at the ability to record your computer screen? And so, yeah, Howard, I'll follow up with you with that as well. You don't see the chat window there. You don't see the other stuff there. We're gonna run this loose. Like I said, I'm going on minimal sleep here, so I'm doing adrenaline and caffeine this morning, everybody. So we've got that poll there. Okay, good deal. And those are the numbers here. Let me go ahead and close that. So it's about 83. Says it's 83% to 17% are looking to record their computer, and that mirrors or it mimics my audience. You know, mostly we want to be looking at doing documentation and doing explaining something to someone on a computer screen and getting that across to them with context and with a level of complexity that would be really difficult in text. So that kind of leads into where we're going. And then if you have, if you have no environment, you can choose my cubicle here. But we're going to go ahead and launch a poll there. What sort of environment do you have set up yet? Or I should say set up already. Are you looking to do this in like a crazy open environment like a cubicle? Do you have some sort of equipment as a home office, or do you have something you're really happy with a, say a room with do you have a recording studio? So go ahead and do that. And that one, that's interesting. That's more or less a split. It was running 33% each for. There it goes again. So we've actually got that 33% split. So that's interesting as well. So we've got people across the spectrum, those that have equipment that they're happy with, and so presumably are already creating some video. And then we've got some others that are just, like I said, starting out. Why, how do I do this, and how do I get this to launch that other stuff that I'm going to be doing? So I'll go ahead and close that. So thanks for that. It's good to have that feedback from you, so I make sure I'm not going above or below too much on the content there. So like I said, focusing on the topics is going to help me, or that's what helps my clients and helps me identify those topics that I should be starting with. And I'm not really so interested in making stuff cinematic quality. I'm not big on doing the high budget stuff until we've gotten, and I hate the phrase low hanging fruit, but I'm looking for another one that replaces it. I want those high value targets. The ones that have the ROI that are just like, you know what, I'm going to identify this. This is that thing that's holding me up. And if I get this out of the way, I'm going to be able to free myself up to do bigger projects. So in my experience, and this is something that some of my clients, some of you guys might be able to agree with, if I can create something fast and do a proof of concept, then that generally leads to deeper engagements. And so for me, with my clients, that means that I'm going to get more and more projects with those people. For you, if you're in a corporate or some sort of environment where you're the employee within the company, this is the sort of thing that justifies budgets. So you want to pick that right topic. So instead of wowing them, I remember when I started with Adobe Captivate, I wanted to create the be all end all of how to use Adobe Illustrator. And that's a really difficult thing to do in general, but it's also very difficult to do with one software tool or with a couple hours worth of work. It wasn't like I could set 8 hours aside and create 8 hours worth of my face-to-face class time. I can't trade 8 hours of Captivate time and turn it into 8 hours of e-learning. There's just a different payback there. So I have to figure out, if I'm going to start a project, where should I be starting, and where should it be? Where are those topics that will write themselves, to coin a phrase there, which are going to write themselves and which are going to help produce themselves. So we're going to look at, I'm working right now with an energy company, TECO Energy, and they bought a previous client, I have a client that was bought by TECO Energy is what I should say there. So their project, initially they came to me, and I trained one of their folks on Adobe FrameMaker and got a FrameMaker template set up for them. Then they were bought by a larger company, which meant not only did we have to rework what we had done, we almost had to start from scratch there with the new corporate standards, but we also needed to be able to incorporate things for non-FrameMaker users. So they were looking not only to get the template, but to get the template documented for people who had never seen Adobe FrameMaker. There's probably at least one or two people out there smiling going, yeah, that is not an easy document to write. So that kind of gives you a sense of the size of the project that they'd presented me with. The biggest problem with writing, well, for me, taking on a project to explain to people how to use Adobe FrameMaker, is I already did that. So I've got a big, thick boat anchor FrameMaker reference book that they said, yeah, we don't want to run people through training, that thing that I've done for 20 years. We don't want to sell them we don't want to get for them all these copies of your big reference book. We just want them to know how to do it easily. I said, yeah, I had a real disconnect there. So we had to take a step back. And what we did is we said, all right, we need to document this stuff in a way that's going to, and kind of got in front of myself with the slides here, but we need to figure out a way to get the content to the users in a way that they could easily reference a bullet point document. And I'll show you that in just a second. But also for those things that are not easy to document, how can we smooth over those rough points where people just fade out, or they say, yeah, that's that point where your documentation falls off. And that's the thing that's where I've really been focusing on using video to fill those holes. And if I can do that, if I can use this little formula here, I can look at my documentation, things that I have trouble writing, or things that I've had trouble writing, or my clients have had trouble writing, and things that aren't really doing what they need to do. If you've got that incomplete and ineffective content, we're going to start with that. We're going to say, these are the things, forget about the stuff we did great on. We don't need to turn everything to video. But if we can isolate the content that's not doing its job right now, or we're having trouble getting around to it, then we can move down into the blue circle and say, okay, of those topics, of the things that are incomplete, which are going to be easy enough in order to produce, right? So don't try and do some crazy thing where you have to pull the engine out of a car and show how you're going to use the crane, and you're going to do this, and then specialized tools, and you want to make it something that's easy to document. So in the case of TECO, we've got this template, and there were portions of it that were they were broad. They didn't lead themselves to a series of bullet points because there were options. You needed to apply, you needed to explain context. And so we looked for those things that, instead of explaining a picture, we would just give them a visual picture and a video snapshot of what that process was, so that people didn't get hung up in the semantics of it. And then finally, we've got the scope. And so obviously, if I have the green light to do one video project and I choose something that's overarching, I'm going to have difficulty with narrowing that down enough and actually getting it across the finish line in something that's going to be, well, I want to use the word saleable, but something that's going to be approved or is going to be recognized by management as a win. So we're looking for that easy win in terms of narrowing down the scope. And we'd rather have, you'll see in the video that I've got for you, we'd rather have a series of videos on a topic so that people can self-select, rather than giving the gigantor, when I work in a Captivate class, something that would be a 90-minute e-learning lesson. I don't want a 90-minute e-learning lesson. I want something like that broken up into pieces within an e-learning or a learning management system, an LMS, or I want those little pieces of video split up and sprinkled throughout my documentation where people can get to the easy part, right? I've got easy bullet points and screen captures that illustrate my point, exactly. And then you get to those points where they start to lose context. We can use video to bring them, rather than getting to somewhere where someone will tone out, we're going to bring them into somewhere that brings them back into it. The video actually draws them in and says, oh, yes, that's okay. Now I get what you're saying. That's not so difficult, but it was just something that wasn't going to happen without that visual. And because most of our documentation these days, even what we might consider print, probably more often than not is going to PDF, we've got electronic publishing. And that is another one of the things that I've been focusing on for a couple of years, is that digital publishing, regardless of the application you're using, that ability to produce digital content that has that rich media that's embedded inside of it. It's got that interactive, it's got the things that provide context, and not only context, but can also allow you to connect on a better emotional level, especially with camera footage, a better emotional level with your audience as well. This webinar is an excellent example. You could read this as a white paper, but I don't know if I'm going to write as persuasively as I'm going to be able to tell you how much this stuff means to me and how much this means to all of my clients. Okay, so TECO said, we need this document. And I said, yeah, I don't want to write that document because that's crazy. And even if you have the money, I don't want to spend my life doing this project that you're asking. So we arrived upon a way to get a quick win for the documentation, the physical text document, and also a way that would be able to identify the videos that were missing. And so what we did is, that's a reminder to go back to that slide right there. What we did is we said we're going to have a couple of online sessions with my client, and he's going to go through and produce the document. And this is a module for gas safety procedures, and he's going to start with a blank document. He's going to go through all of that process. In fact, if I switch over to that doc, we've got right here, this is an operations and maintenance manual, and it's got lots of referencing. You can see it's got some test information in it, but it's automatically numbered through here. The table of contents, the little mini TOC at the beginning of the chapter, that's put in automatically using the latest version of FrameMaker. We've got content in here, headers that run all the way through. That's stuff that's put up in here. You can see it's a pretty complex document. It's not rocket science, but it does lend itself to a specific order of operation. So as we put some stuff in here, and then you'll see my example here is going to be creating this table, literally creating the table we're looking at right here. As we went through this, we started at the top, right? And we said, this is going to be the document that we use. Now, hang on just a second, because looks like I had closed out of my template usage doc. Okay, so here's the document that we created. I wrote this doc as my client was going through and starting everything. So filled out the header right there and a quick intro, and then we started saying, look, this is what you might want to know before we start. This is what we do when we start. We go through all this stuff in here in order. You can just follow all of these procedures, and you will have the base, or just the bones that you need to create this module and be on your way. You're going to notice here that there were some things in here that didn't get filled out. Now, the tables in particular, this is something where context would come into play. Instead of being able to write out a procedure, the ability to go in and look at this insert table dialog box right here, this is a little bit harder to write because there are a number of options that you'd have to explain, and all of a sudden you kind of get lost in the weeds. So we identified a series of those, and I believe I've got a slide showing those things. Okay, So we looked at the videos that would be necessary. And what we did is we said, what can we document quickly? What are we happy with? Okay, let's check that off. The things that we're not happy with, the things that have more than one legitimate way to get them done, applying character and paragraph formatting, inserting different types of cross references, inserting tables, those things have some stretch. There are multiple ways to do that, and they're important enough that we want to make sure that you see a visual of how that all happens and why this is an easy thing to do once you learn how to use the application. So this was our list right here. And so what I did is I said for this class, oops, there we go. We're going to get to that in just one second. I said for this class, I'm going to come in and I'm going to create a video on inserting and formatting. Basically, it wasn't, it was inserting tables, although there's also going to be a formatting tables video that comes along with it. So I had my flight yesterday out of New Orleans, got stuck in Houston, got boarded onto a plane that had a leaking fuel bladder. It sounds as scary as it is, I think, because they pushed us all off the plane and had to sit around, and we finally, a few hours later, got on a different plane. And by the time I got back to San Diego and then drove a couple miles north, it was after 3 o'clock. So you'll see on the timestamp here, we're going to go in, and I'll go ahead and play this, but if you want to see this, this is actually loaded on my video site, on my Vimeo, vimeo.com site. So bit.ly/insert-table. So that's pretty short if you want to type it in. But what I'll do is I'll come over and grab the video there. And let's see, where did that one go? Let's go back to Chrome. And that one is different. Give me just one sec. I can simply type in my own stuff. bit.ly/insert-table. And I'll take my screen here. There we go. Okay, so this is under 2 minutes, and I'll skip forward a little bit. If you view this on your own, you can go ahead and mute if there's any sort of overlapping audio here. I'll just kind of talk over it and look at the various parts here. But the thing to know is you want to go to HD. Otherwise, it'll look a little bit blurry, and that's just the Vimeo system. That's not how the video was recorded. And I'll click on this, and I will, let's see. I'm going to look at this video and show you that within that 2 minutes, I'm doing an audio overlay, telling you how to put your cursor in the document, go to that insert table dialog box, fill everything out, and then hit insert. Later on in the video, notice how the video is kind of sped up, so you don't have to watch me do real-time entry of all the data. Then we come in here and we talk about how to add and delete rows and columns. And then we've got the continued variables and the sheet variation, or the sheet variables right there. And then there's a discussion of the videos that are going to come. So what we did here, let me point out, I don't know if you guys can see this, how well this is coming across, because it didn't go really full screen the way it's published right now. But literally today's date, right? Was it the 15th? And the time is 3:43 a.m. So that is when I recorded the video. I hit record in my machine, recorded a few minutes of that video, brought it in, and then just did an audio overlay over the top of it. And what that let me do, this is something that I talk about in my course, that let me chop up the audio and chop up the video and match it and mesh it so that I'm not trying to, as I like to say, walk and chew gum at the same time. That's something that I'm not terribly proficient at. And I find when I do my video work that if I do the recording of the video first, if it's not live camera footage, if I do the recording of the video first, I'm able to provide a cleaner and a more believable audio track to go over the top of that, and then put it together in post editing. And obviously, sometime between 3:43 this morning and 10:30 Pacific this morning, so 7 hours, not only did I sleep, but I recorded the video there and then put the audio track on top of it. I trimmed it down, I published it, I made it live, and I was out the door. So I would say roughly I spent 15, 20 minutes doing the recording inside of FrameMaker. I also would say probably about 10 to 15 minutes doing the audio. And then I would say just about 10 or 15 minutes doing the editing. So I think I'm into it for about 45 minutes. And for that, if I were to document with screen captures, that whole process, I'm sure I could get it done a little bit faster just writing it out. But I think that the impact of that message would not be as clear. I don't think that I would connect with those people. I don't think that they reading that text would be able to connect with the information as well. I don't think they'd be as confident working on the project. So that's going to, on request of my client, that's going to give them the win that they need to go back and say, look, this is how this works. It's going to keep my client off the phone, presumably, trying to explain to them how to do this and this and this. So this is, in a way, it's self-defense against the input that you've got to give other people to explain, the context of what you've written and what you've provided for them. And so let's see. I want to check and see if you guys have any questions at this point. And what do you guys think of that? You get a little couple responses there. You may have to go into the questions there. Okay, looking good. So this is something, so it sounds like from the responses there that this is something that's going to help out could be helping out your client as well. So that is, just to recap there, let me go back into the PowerPoint. So that is the main thrust of the webinar topic there. So wanted you guys to see how I would use my topic choices to drive my business results and actually speed up the creation. Once you choose that proper topic, it's something that lends itself. You look at that diagram, that little 3 overlapping circle Venn diagram. You figure out the place where you're missing content, and the things that you can produce easily can be scoped out to produce something that almost writes itself. It's going to produce its own script. It's going to dictate its own tools. And then probably the one circle I didn't put in there is I would want to look at the, and this has to go, this probably fits more under scope than anything, is what is my audience going to be? Because not only the length and the depth of the topic, but how often are you going to be looking at that video? Because if you're looking at a piece of video that's going to be seen by literally thousands, well, that's going to be a different line item in your budget than something that you expect 3-4 people in your department to look at a few times until they get it right. And then you'll have it as reference, but it's not something that has to carry the whole weight of your branding and the just that that gravitas of a cinematic production. So we don't want it to look like it's halfway done. We don't want it to look half baked. We want it to look pro, but we want to pick the tools that will represent our audience's expectation. So I know I've gone in and seen clients that have their expectations set too high, and it almost looks silly. You get this full-blown presentation over something that's like, and that's how you log into our network. And to go over the top makes people kind of chuckle a little bit. You don't want your people giggling at what you did. You want to say, oh, okay, good. They met me quickly where I needed to be, and then they moved me forward past that rough spot to where I can go back and use the other things as reference, whether it's print or PDF online help, or mobile, this content can now be buried into that document. And with it, excuse me, within FrameMaker, that's a video where I can come in here, and I won't go through and do it because live demos are a bad time to do that. But I can go File. I just use my keyboard shortcuts to get to File, Import File, embed the video, and then that video or a link, a live link to the online video, I can put either one into my FrameMaker doc that will then go out to PDF and then go on into online digital output that could very easily be viewed on a mobile device. Okay, so that's the webinar topic itself. Now, if this is something that you're planning on doing, this is something that you need, wanted to let you know that we've got next week for the STC, we've got a course that's going to be running called Creating Awesome Video Content. I've got a couple of things that I can just show you real quick. And so here's the bit.ly for the sales page there. And this is a page that's got a video where I'm explaining some of the content in it, along with descriptions of what each of the modules are for the course. The course is about 6 weeks long. I'm actually going to sneak in a 7th week, even though they don't want me to let people catch up a little bit and to show you some fun stuff like augmented reality and 3D. So we're going to have a little bit of fun at the end of it. And as I said, it runs through the STC. I need to, let's see, we're going to go back to a different screen, and we will get out of that one. And there we go. So this is that bit.ly page that I was talking about. And we've got that offer there. Actually, so the STC, I thought they were giving a gift card away to everybody. So since I promised it, if you guys sign up today and tell me that you did it through the webinar, then I actually will give you that gift card, even though you might actually get 2 of them. You might win the one that the STC gives away, and then you get another one from me. But here's a video of me talking about the course, just about 2 minutes long. And then this is a link over to the STC registration page. You can see that we've got kind of an overall description here. And then we've got the individual modules, so the content that we're going to be looking at. So the course is open right now for enrollment. It's got 6, I think we've got 6 modules, and then the 7th one is down here. Like I said, we're going to do some fun stuff at the end. And the method of the class, we're going to be running this through the STC's Moodle online course system. That's what, who knows, hundreds of online universities are using for their own stuff. And so we're going to have live interactive sessions, more interactive than this one right here. But we're going to have live sessions, both a weekly, what we'll call lecture, and then also we're going to have office hours where I can meet with all of you online. And depending on however many students show up, we'll talk about the specific topics and the questions that you've got about the material for the week. So you can think of perhaps 2-3 hours on your own. As your schedule permits, you can review and view and work on some projects, and then we'll gather in those 2 places, the office hours and the live session, to hammer out all the details and get something that's really helpful for you. We're going to have a series of hands-on projects. So if you have a type of video that you need to create, then this is a great way to make sure that you get all of the assets that you need, whether you're using camera or not, whether you're using a screencast recording, kind of like what I showed you here, whether you're using something like Storyline or Captivate, or if you're just using PowerPoint. We'll show you how to create video that will get you moving forward. It's going to get you that first win, clear up a little bit of space, hopefully get you room to get approval to get going, or just be the first thing that you need to tick off on that series of things you may have already been tasked with. And then also we're going to have, along with the projects and the sessions, then we're going to have things like the video that I just showed you. We're going to have a series of tools downloads, so you can figure out how to construct your own environment, so that we look at, based upon budget and based upon environment, the tools that you will be able to best put into place to give you the highest level of quality depending on what your parameters are. So if you've got no budget, we're going to show you how to do real bare bones stuff that gives you something that is pretty darn good. But if you also have a little bit more budget, we'll show you how to get better mics, better lights, better cameras, and give you links to purchase some of that stuff so that you don't have to do that research that I've done for the last couple of years. All right, more stuff down at the bottom. This is a list of the things that you get as downloads through the class. And then finally, again, the link to come through here. And there's my note about, oh, by the way, it's a chance at a $50 gift card, not a $50 gift card. And so finally, if you go in here, just want to show you what this looks like when you click on that button, or if you go to the STC site, just waiting on that. Hurry up and wait on my internet connection. There we go. So this is the actual registration form itself. You can see you've got all of the other things in here. This is great. So the gals over there put up some other video links to some advertising that I'd done on Facebook and YouTube. And I think this is the page that goes back to the page we just looked at. That's the link for that. And then the registration link. A little bit more about me. And then a kind of an explanation of how the online courses work for STC. And so look at that. We got 37 minutes. Got that all out of the way. And so I'd love to know with all of you what your impressions are of this, what you thought of the choosing topics content, because that's why you got here today, and then also what your needs are moving forward. I know I've got a couple of folks that took advantage of some free sessions that I ran a while back. So this is another opportunity for all of you to kind of ask questions and ask whatever you want in kind of an open forum there. How we doing? What do we got going for questions for everybody? I'm looking to see. All right, all good so far. Fantastic. Okay. Well, I will. Thanks for being here. I'm going to take the recording of this, and then I'll be boosting that back out to you in case you have anything that you want to review. Of course, you've got my information already with the GoToMeeting, I should say the GoToWebinar invitation. And I just look forward to getting back in touch with more of you that now that I've got this new system. A little bit on that note, I'm going to be sending out an email. I'm going to try today, but I'm not sure how far I'm going to get after my lack of sleep there. But you're going to notice that the emails that I send out in the next few days are going to be from a different system than the TechCom Tools newsletter was previously, and that allows me to more accurately target specific messages to people who really want that sort of information. So I'm going to put out a poll and says, hey, tell me a little bit about you and what you're doing right now. What is it that you need so that, for instance, if you want to know about video, but you really have no interest in FrameMaker, that you can choose the video but not the FrameMaker, so you'll have one less email a month from me if I'm putting out something about Frame. But I'll have a series of concepts, video, mobile delivery, and then Adobe Tools training, for specific subjects. And then also talking about the different events that I've got. So look for that email along with the recording from me. And if you don't get it and you want it faster, just ping me and make sure that you put a little fire under me and you get that going. Okay. Fantastic. Well, I appreciate everybody's time. And I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording here. And appreciate you all in attendance. And try and sign up. Oh, the other thing I was going to say is if you get a chance to sign up today, what I can also send you is let me get back to my PowerPoint here. And I went to, coincidentally, I was in New Orleans. I was also there in October for the LavaCon conference. And I gave a really well-received, it was one of the things that I was doing in preparation for this online course, but a presentation called Ditching Words, Using Video to Improve Documentation. And that is a 1-hour presentation that shows how you might put video to use within your own documentation. And so we look at, I think it's 8 different video examples. We've got a hospital that's using video along with or to augment their collateral and their mailers. We look at some examples from Apple for both the Apple Watch and for the new iPhone release. Just ways that people are using video, just different creative ways that people are using video within their documentation. And so there's some really compelling, as overused word, I hate that one too, but there really are some compelling examples of video and ways that people are getting their job done and doing their documentation better and faster using an appropriate type of video. All right, well, fantastic. Thanks everybody again for being here. That's all I got for you today. So if you got any questions, please give me a call, send me an email, and I'll look forward to talking to you soon. Bye-bye.